All right, so we're going to talk about life in the Middle Ages. We're going to real quick run through what we did yesterday, and then we'll go from there. So yesterday we're going to be writing our notes on page 9. It'll be at the top of page 9, but right now it's just a real quick review. So refresher on feudalism. One, it was why feudalism? How did this come about? And it was people were looking forward to the nobles because they needed protection from Vikings and Muslim armies, and they were willing to go along with whatever got them safe. What we find often is that people are willing to give up just about anything to be safe. Okay, so how does feudalism work? One, it's an exchange of land for protection based on loyalty, and again, it's land for loyalty and service. So first, the king. Excellent. The king owns all the land completely, okay? And Excel is starting. Excellent. The king owns all the land completely. The king then grants the land to lords or nobles, but they do not own the land. It's not even like a renter's agreement. If you rent a house, you have like a 1-year lease and you're guaranteed to be on the land for that amount of time. This is, I'll lend you this and I'll take it back whenever I want to. Mind you, it wasn't just kind of like that. I mean, the king was going to give it to him as long as the noble was going to be loyal. The king would be loyal. Again, this loyalty thing plays a huge role into that. But the king still owns it, but he gives it. The lord then would give land grants to knights in the same way that the king granted to them. And it's I'll give you land, you give me military service and loyalty. And then the peasants worked the land. They weren't slaves, but they could not leave the land. They were stuck to the land. So that's basically what we talked about last time. So now we're going to put a couple notes at the top of page 9, so new page. Because there's a couple things you need to know about how people live their lives. So the first one was the son of a lord was sent to another castle to begin training to become a knight at about age 5 or 6. So we should be writing this down. The son of a lord. So the question of how do you become a knight? You become a knight starting at age 5 or 6. So then you've got kind of the question, why sent to another castle? Why couldn't you just stay at home and have your dad train you? Your dad's a knight, after all. It's really as simple as sometimes with our own children we're maybe overprotective. Sometimes your parents are hard on you because they want you to be able to grow up and be a good adult. But we also have some parents that really, really overprotect some of the students here. And it's going to come back to haunt you, When you turn 18, that if you don't get, turn in an assignment late and your college professor gives you a 0, your mom thinks she's going to call the college professor and talk to the college professor. The college professor's not even going to speak with your mom. He's going to hang up on her. In fact, your mother has 0 right to talk to the college professor at that point. And even, I've had college professors say, but I paid for it. Doesn't matter. The student is the one enrolled. Once you hit 18, your parents lose all ability to speak for you at that point. But so we have those overprotective people. Now just imagine this. What if your dad was trying to train you to be a fighter? He might train you to a certain point, and he'd want you to be the best fighter you could. But when it came time for actually going into combat, whoa, son, you don't go up there. I don't want you to get hurt or killed, right? Another knight is going to go out there. Yeah, get in there. Get those whacks in. Oh, you got stabbed in the leg. It's okay. Keep going, buddy. So, again, the boys were sent to other castles. And again, 5 or 6, we're talking kindergarten. While you gentlemen were heading into kindergarten and your mom was like, it's okay. I'm going to pick you up in just a little bit. these boys were actually being shipped off for years to go to another castle. Do you have a question? All right. So, that's great. And the girls are all going, whoo, dodged a bullet, right? But girls also were sent away at about the same age. So the daughter of a lord was sent to another castle to learn how to be a lady at about the same age. The daughter of a lord was sent to live in another castle to learn how to be a lady about the same time. Yes?
So why couldn't the mom teach them since it wasn't too bad?
You know, that's a good question. It doesn't make, maybe just they're like trying to be
Equal, fair.
Fair. So, all right. So, now you're thinking, okay, learning to be a lady, great. Like how to sit right, how to dress right, which fork to use at dinner, right? That's lady stuff. But what did we learn last class? Who runs the manor when the Lord isn't there?
The wife.
The wife of the Lord, the lady of the manor, okay? So, it wasn't just that she was going to learn how to be a lady. She was going to learn everything about how a manor ran. She was learning, what did the peasants do? What was every job? What was everything? Because, again, when her husband was gone for years at a time, she was the person in charge. So that's the kind of stuff that they were learning. So they go through this. Now, young men, if training went well, a man generally became a knight at age 21. That's when they actually were, the term for when you're training, you're a squire. And then when you become a full knight, you're actually knighted. You've probably seen it, like you kneel in front of your lord, and he puts a sword in it. It's like, I dub you Sir Galahad. And you get up, and then we're going to watch a film that's going to talk about knights and chivalry and what it all meant and the rules that you were supposed to follow, but that was the deal. Once you were a knight, you could do things like get your own castle. Last time we talked about, if Sir Babo gets killed in battle, that's when it's like, hey, we got this new knight, and he needs a castle, so he could be put into that. So about age 21. So we're talking, 15-ish years of 15 years of training. So these guys, again, knights were not. It's not like they went through basic training for 8 weeks. These are people that have trained for 15 years to be killers. Okay, ladies, girls were married off to lords or knights around age 13. This was most often done to solidify ties between families. I'll talk about that more in just a second. It's about this point when I start to wonder if it's really kicking into the ladies' brains that are writing this down exactly what this means. Yeah, it's about time. You're starting, if now, you gentlemen, actually, the gentlemen that are here at about age 13 or 14 is when you actually started to go into combat with your knight. And you'd be like at your knight that was training you. You'd be at his side in combat at about age 13, 14. Okay? But so at that same age, the ladies are getting married off. To whom? Lords and knights. What does that mean?
Older
people.
At bare minimum, your husband is going to be 21. At bare minimum.
Wow.
So
a young girl of like 15 marries a like 21-year-old man.
Okay,
It's not illegal.
Yeah, back then, of course, it was perfectly legal. But so one of the things is that, you might be 13, 14, 15, you get married off to somebody that's a knight or a lord, but it doesn't even mean 21-year-old or 25-year-old. It could be a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old. There's a lord whose wife has died, and he needs a new wife. And, he could be 50 years old, so you might get married off to that.
50 years old was very old on that time.
Now, as we sit here and think about that, and I know that might seem really bizarre, okay, and one of the things, the second piece to this was most often done to solidify ties between families. So if the lingdom is sitting there and they've got a situation where Lord Webb and Lord Poss don't get along, they don't like each other, but King Ling, he needs everybody to be happy. So he marries the son of Lord Poss to the daughter of Lord Webb, so that there's not just a family tie, but then, of course, children. So then they're both the grandparents of that child. They can't really hate each other because they're the grandparents of the same child. Okay? So often a young lady and a man wouldn't even, they maybe meet the day before they get married. Now I know that this seems like so kind of crazy. Arranged marriages were common and still common in the country of India. They were even amongst nobility. If we look at America and the nobility, there are certain families that have been around for a long time, like the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers. Even they would intermarry their kids. I mean, because you want to keep this nobility. Yes, sir.
Oh, what do you wear when you get married?
I have no idea what you would wear when you get married. Last time I got married, I wore some blue jeans.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
I don't know.
What were they?
not a dress suit, but blue jeans.
So a knight might very well wear his armor. He'd probably wear his armor, and then the bride would probably wear a white something.
Wedding
a wedding dress. So, so even in America, if you've seen the movie Titanic, okay, in the movie Titanic, and if you haven't seen the movie Titanic, you need to see it before you graduate from high school. Just period. So in Titanic, the main, which is it's what we call a historical fiction, where you have a real life event that happens, and you have a couple of fictional characters inserted into the real story. Lots of the people that are in the movie Titanic were real people, like the captain of the shipbuilder, the guy that was the main engineer. So, but the main two characters, Jack and Rose, were fictional characters. Well, Rose in Titanic is supposed to be about age 15. And she is on her way back to the United States. She's an American, but she's on her way back, and there's a very wealthy American guy that she's engaged to. He's about 30. And there, if you watch the movie closely, there's even things where she doesn't want to marry him, and her mom is forcing her to marry him. Because they're almost out of money, he's wealthy, we need the family bonds. It was the same thing. We're marrying them off to solidify ties. So and you may think, well, this is 800 years ago in Europe, but this was still going on in the United States 100 years ago between wealthy families. So that's not that as crazy as it might seem. This is how it kind of went if you were wealthy, if you were a noble, of noble birth, okay? And again, just being wealthy doesn't cut it. You have to have been of noble birth. It doesn't matter if you have money. So peasants, on the other hand, could actually marry for love if they had the permission of their lord. So peasants got to marry whoever they wanted, which is sort of what we do today. You know, this is here we are living in that world. But a peasant got to meet somebody, fall in love. As long as they had their lord's blessing, they could marry them. But if you were a young noble woman or a young noble man, you married whoever you were told to marry. So part of the training when daughters were off being trained to be ladies, and part of being off at a night, it was to do your duty. It actually goes back to kind of the Confucius thing. Doing your duty means marrying whoever you have to because it solidifies the ties for your lord, for your family, for your king. It was done with a purpose. It wasn't just random, hey, let's marry you, you know. We'll actually, in the movie we're going to watch in a second about knights, there's going to be a guy who becomes a knight. He becomes a knight, he wins a couple tournaments, and the king marries him off to a woman who her husband had died. She was left in the castle. The king left her there. He hadn't granted the land or whatever, and he marries this knight off to this woman who had land and castle and wealth. That produces for him, again, he didn't marry her for love. He married her because she had a castle, and the king told him.